There is in Pro Tools, in relation to its signal path and the way it works, an important distinction between what's called real-time processes and Audiosuite processes. Now, once again, I've got my guitar track here. Just play it for you. We all recognise that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a real-time process to it. So, for example, if I click on the EQ plugin, okay, just do something a little bit mad here. So what I'm going to do is apply EQ to that guitar, which will sound absolutely horrible, but let's do it anyway. So, having done that, okay, you can hear how bright it is. We'll do that, that's pretty horrible. Just bypass that and you can hear the difference. Okay, I want you to hear the fact that that process has been applied. Now, that process is happening in real time. So again, in relation to signal path, the signal is coming off the hard drive, the raw audio, and then it passes through this processor. And this processor does its thing. It messes around with that EQ in real time. If I bypass that, we're back to the raw audio again. Okay, it's a very simple process just to turn that on and off. Horrible, nice again. Horrible EQ, nice again. Okay, so that's happening in real time. Now, what I can do with this EQ is I can save it. Okay, so if I go to preset and select save settings as, and I will call it Ian's horrible EQ for guitar. I'm just going to click on saving that, and you see where it said factory default before, it now says Ian's horrible EQ for guitar. Okay, now that is, I've created a preset out of that. That does mean that if I were to bring up any of my other tracks, I'll just unhide the other acoustic guitar track, for example. Okay, so there's the other acoustic guitar track. I'll come up with the mixer again. Okay, what I can do with plugins is I can copy them from one track to the next. So two ways I can do that. If ever I want to copy anything in Pro Tools, if you remember, the function is hold down the Alt function and just click it to where you want to copy it to. So that's automatically copied that plugin with its settings onto that second channel. Or, because I saved that as a preset, if I load up the EQ again in here, 7-band EQ. If I go to my factory default, I now find I've got one called Ian's horrible EQ for guitar. Surprise, surprise, and there it is. So that is now a preset that I've saved. Now, any user that comes into this particular account will be able to use that and access that. Why they'd want to, however, I don't know, because it is a particularly horrible one. Anyway, I'm using a horrible one on purpose. So that's quite a useful function with the plugins. However, we've got another way of doing things. We can, again, I'm just going to hide that guitar track. Go back to the single guitar track, back to my mixer. So, oops, there we are, back to the mixer. So rather than having this as a real-time effect, which takes up a little bit of processing power, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a bit of the audio track, okay, like this, using the selector tool. And now I'm going to go to the Audiosuite. And the Audiosuite is all the plugins, all the functions we have in the plugins, but just what it does is it rewrites the audio file. So this time I'm going to go to EQ, and I'm going to EQ3 7-band. There we are again. It's exactly the same plugin with exactly the same functions as we used a minute ago. And again, if I go to the presets, there's Ian's horrible EQ for guitar, because it is the same plugin. What this is going to do this time, however, is it's going to rewrite the audio file with that EQ applied to it. So the EQ then is no longer part of a real-time process. So I click on render and it rewrites the part. Now if you look at that now, I'll just show you, just enlarge it up a little bit. You see it's changed that. It's now called acoustic guitar EQ37B blah 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 blah. You can also see the effect that it's had on the waveform. It's kind of boosted it because there's quite a high mid-frequency boost in that. So if I go back to the mixer, there's no EQ in that, but now it sounds as though there is. Take it to here, and this is it without the EQ. Okay, so we've got that horrible EQ that's now been applied to the original file, and the un-EQ'd sound. So the Audiosuite function here has actually rewritten the audio file. It's reconstructed the audio file and changed the nature of the audio file. That means we don't have to go through the real-time process anymore. Now, sometimes the Audiosuite is an absolute saviour. If you want a process applied to an entire track very quickly, we can utilise the Audiosuite. But modern computers, the way they are these days, they can handle the real-time processes of the plugins. The plugins are called AAX plugins as they come in through there, but the Audiosuite is exactly the same processes, but it just rewrites the audio file. Again, I'll just do another example of that. So I'll use a reverb this time, and you'll see what happens to it. So here, I'll just take this acoustic guitar track here, go Audiosuite, select reverb, go deverb again, and I'll not go too stupid with the setting, but this time I'm putting way too much reverb on it. Watch what happens to it when we re-render the audio file. Okay, so now if we listen to it, you can hear it's got reverb on it, but it's actually written with that, because look, there's no reverb plugin. So that track has been written with reverb on it now. Just turn the volume up a bit so you can hear it with its lovely reverb on it. That also means normally with an inline plugin, if you have reverb, then if you hit stop, the reverb will carry ringing on. But because I've written it onto the audio file, as soon as I stop the audio file, the reverb stops playing. So you need to watch how you utilise the Audiosuite. It can be, like I said, it can be a lifesaver, and certainly some things you have to do in Audiosuite. So for example, here's a good one. We'll go to reverse other, and we'll select reverse. And this will turn the whole thing upside down. Okay, so now this guitar part is the reverse. Okay, that has to be done by Audiosuite. That can't be done in real time. So there's a couple of functions in there in the Audiosuite that you need to be aware of that are going to be quite useful for practical and creative purposes.